Now on CoastTV News.
A controversial bill passes the Senate, what it could change and what happens next.
Fundraising fun, why Georgetown EMS is hosting a carnival during major financial strain.
The heat in our area is cranking up big time. More on that coming up.
This is CoastTV News at 5.
Plans for a U.S. wind substation next to this retired power plant could soon be back on the table. Good evening. I'm Madeline Overturf.
And I'm Christina DeRobertis. Charlie Sakaitis has the night off.
A controversial bill is heading to a Delaware House committee. Here's a look from above in Dagsboro, where a substation could go if that bill is signed into law. Senate Bill 159 passed the Senate in Tuesday on a 15-5 vote. Coast TV reporter Zakia Jennings shows us what people are thinking and what's next for the bill.
We're taking a look now in the Coast Copter at the plot of land in Dagsboro, directly across from the recently retired Indian River Power Plant. This empty space below us is where U.S. Wind hopes to put a substation, and after Tuesday's Senate vote, they are one step closer to doing just that.
The bill would overturn Sussex County Council's decision to deny a permit for the project. But both the substation and offshore wind in general have faced public pushback.
Why do we want to take that and completely disrupt it and build and bury cables and termination points and then run that down all the way to the power station that's way down in Millsboro under the seabed?
Ken Reuter says he's not against offshore wind, but he does not think Delaware should be involved in Maryland's project.
I see a significant detriment in the way that we are being tasked as a state for a Maryland project to host the onboarding of the connection into a land-based substation.
Coast TV reached out to Sussex County's public information officer about the passing of the bill. He says, quote, "The county remains hopeful that we, along with other local government officials, can continue to collaborate with our state partners to work towards the best solutions for the public we all serve." While we could not interview U.S. Wind today, a statement was shared from its Vice President of External Affairs, saying in part, quote, "The electric grid could face a capacity shortage as soon as this summer, and energy costs in Delaware continue to rise. Now more than ever, Delaware and other PJM states should enact policies to facilitate as much new energy generation as possible. SB 159 will ensure reliability for Delawareans while lowering the price they pay for electricity." When asked what's next for the substation, U.S. Wind shared they, quote, "can't speak to what would happen if the bill ultimately passes."
Now that the bill has passed the Senate, it will be assigned to a House committee. If it is voted out of committee, it will be sent to the House floor for a vote. From the Coast Copter, flying above Dagsboro, I'm Zakia Jennings, Coast TV News.
Previously reported on Coast TV News at 5, other bills raising eyebrows regarding government overreach, opponents say, are Senate Bills 87 and 75. 87 would require towns and homeowners associations to allow secondary housing units or accessory dwelling units on single-family lots. 75 limits local authority over marijuana businesses.
Georgetown EMS is kicking off their fundraising carnival tonight. Coast TV News reporter Emma Aiken is there. Emma, this is the first time they've done an event like this.
Christina, the carnival lights are flashing. We're starting to smell the funnel cakes in the air. The rides are starting to sound up. We've got basketball over here for prizes, classic skee ball behind me over here. Here, fishy, teacups. This will all begin in just about an hour at 6, and the rides will start going. While this may look like a lot of fun, and it certainly is, Georgetown EMS tells us the money raised from this is critical. And officials say the money raised will go towards a new ambulance, which cost around $300,000. That's bare bones without any equipment in them. And a recent study presented to the county showed Georgetown EMS's financial health grade to be one of the lowest in Sussex County. Georgetown EMS tells us the growing area has led to an uptick in calls, and with more work comes the need for more resources.
Both of our oldest ambulances have almost 300,000 miles on them, and to most people maybe it's not a lot, but when you're running a 911 ambulance, the last thing you want to do is say, oh, well, we can't do it because we don't have a truck that's running.
And if you want to join in on this fun and for a good cause, it's tonight until 10 p.m. Again, tomorrow and Friday from 6 to 10 p.m. and Saturday from 3 to 10. Reporting live in Georgetown, Emma Aiken, Coast TV News.
Now to a story we have been closely following here at Coast TV. Today was another day in the legislative session, and District 20 Representative Stell Parker Selby is still absent. Parker Selby, who represents roughly 23,000 registered voters, has missed every single House vote this year. That's at least 104 votes. And for the first time today, politicians on camera say that Parker Selby had a stroke. Sources had previously confirmed that to Coast TV, and now there are new calls for her resignation.
And this does bring us to our Coast TV poll this evening. We want to know how you think political leaders should handle long-term absences of representatives.
Let's take a look at the results so far. Well, 61% say call for resignation, which has just happened today. You'll learn more about that at 6. 29% say health-based leave. 1% say provide updates. 6% say appoint a temporary legislator, and 3% say do nothing.
We also have a comment today from Bruce who says, quote, if you're unable to attend a full session of the office you were elected in, then resign. If you can't represent the constituents you were elected to do, then anyone with any integrity would do the right thing, end quote. And
if you haven't voted yet, you can do that right now.
Just go to
CoastTV.com. We're both going to say it, and we're both going to toss you to the weather, right, Christina?
Here's a live look outside into Lewis, which means it's time to check in with our First Alert Chief Meteorologist, Paul Williams.
Well, we have an interesting situation here now. The heat and the humidity is starting to crank up, and I wasn't planning on talking to you about this, but something just came on my desk I need to tell you about. Air quality is starting to tank a little bit in our area generally. I'm going to show you in a moment. First of all, in Milford, we have 85 degrees, really warm. When it gets really warm like that, air quality can sometimes become a problem. Now, we're in the 70s along the coast. However, inland, 87 in Redden right now, 85 in Millsboro, as well as Gumboro. Here's what we were talking about. Remember that smoke and that fire that's going on in Canada we talked about previously? Well, our future smoke, small-scale modeling is indicating on Thursday, we're going to start teetering over here towards the orange. And then when we take a look, we check back with our air quality. Even though we're in the green here across Delmarva, you see these dots of yellow? We see deteriorating conditions right now. And then we have an air quality alert that's in effect for New Jersey, just north and just west of us over in Washington, D.C. So think about it. Our air is okay theoretically, but to our north and to our west, it's starting to tank a bit. So we're going to talk about how that heat is going to combine with that and cause a few more heat concerns, Maddie.
Thank you. More tension and troubles in Los Angeles. NBC's Jay Gray shows us how today the scope of the ICE raids are expanding as the White House sends in additional National Guard troops and the Marines.
Crews clearing the scars from nearly a week of fear, anger, and at times fighting and destruction in downtown Los Angeles, pushing the mayor to institute an overnight curfew, eliminating the violence despite resistance from protesters, leading to more than 100 arrests.
The majority of the arrests were for unlawful assembly, are violating the curfew. There was no looting, there was no vandalism last night, so I do think that has helped.
What is not helping, according to the mayor and California Governor Gavin Newsom, is President Trump's order to deploy National Guard soldiers and the Marines to L.A.
This brazen abuse of power by a sitting president inflamed a combustible situation, putting our people, our officers, and even our National Guard at risk. That's when the downward spiral began.
The president standing by his decision.
Very simply, we will liberate Los Angeles and make it free, clean, and safe again. It's happening very quickly.
700 Marines and more than 1,000 additional Guard troops moving in.
Our mission is to protect federal agencies, our federal partners, their personnel as they conduct their federal mission.
As that effort now expands, ICE agents chasing down farm laborers harvesting crops in Ventura County. Jay Gray, NBC News, Los Angeles.
New today, China's trade negotiator says the U.S. and China have agreed on a trade framework. Negotiating officials for both sides will now take the proposal back to their leaders for approval. The major sticking points have been China's control over so-called rare earth minerals and its access to semiconductor technology originating from the U.S.
China has agreed to open their markets to the United States separately of this deal. And when it comes to this deal, we're going back to the terms that were agreed upon in Geneva for the release of some of those critical minerals and the magnets from China to the United States.
The U.S. Commerce Secretary has also confirmed a framework of a deal is in place and signals a commitment to de-escalate tension between the two countries. Lawsuit over genetics, the legal battle brewing between several states and 23andMe over privacy.
The humidity and heat is quickly rising. More on that coming up.
But first, animal rescue, the heartbreaking story behind these pets. Up next.
This is Coast TV News at 5.
More than 24 pets were rescued from a house in Kent County after being found in unsanitary conditions. That's according to the Brandywine Valley SPCA.
The dogs and cats are now in the care of the Brandywine Valley SPCA in Georgetown. Staff say the animals suffered hair loss, infections, and a lot of fleas.
And while some of the pets are ready to be adopted already, others will continue to need to be monitored and to get treatment.
This didn't happen overnight. This is literally years in the making for these animals to get in this bad of shape and for that home to be in that bad of shape. So if something doesn't look right, report it, because no animal should have to go through what these guys have gone through.
If you'd like to help, the group says there's a lot of medical expenses that come with treating these pets, and the BVSPCA is taking donations and looking for volunteers. We have links for all of it on CoastTV.com.
Here's a look at your Bay forecast. Listen, the heat is cranking up in a major way for us on Thursday. Then we're watching out for thunderstorms and scattered showers Friday and Saturday. And in the midst of all of that, we're going to be concerned about even the UV index escalating. More on all of that in your full forecast coming up. Here comes the heat and humidity in spades. In Laurel, 83 degrees, a bit overcast, but warm. And we're going to stay in the 80s until the sun goes down to 75 degrees with mostly clear skies for tonight. Now, we're sizzling and simmering right now as we speak. It's 87 degrees in Redden, 84 in places like Bridgeville, Seaford, Georgetown, Delmar, as well as Gumboro. But we're in the 70s along the coast. But take a look at these dew point temperatures. In the 60s, 50s for Georgetown and Redden, so it's a little bit better there. But it's steamy in Bethany Beach, Indian River Inlet, as well as Rehoboth Beach right now. Fortunately, we're seeing the problem with air quality staying to our north in New Jersey and to our west over in the D.C. area. Although we're in the general vicinity, so we're going to have to be a little bit watchful on how that's happening. A low pressure system to our south is not veering to the north, it's moving more zonal and out towards water, so we don't have an immediate threat for rain, but we do have a chance of it going into the weekend. Overnight, upper 60s is where we're going to stay with clear skies and the winds out of the southwest relatively light at about 2 to 5 miles per hour. With our forecast, we anticipate warming up to get this 90 degrees. Now, that's not necessarily a record high, but it's not it's not what I would call comfortable living, okay? Listen, and the humidity is going to come into play because this is a wind that's coming out of the southwest, so we're going to have more moisture that's going to kick in. So, for example, on the coast, we're looking at 83. Inland, we're looking at 90. Eastern Shore, over towards Cambridge, 89 degrees. So we're clocking 89 to 90 degrees, and that's the air temperature. That's not including the heat index. And just for context, average 90-degree day, first 90-degree day of May the 24th average. Last time we had it was actually August the 21st in 2024 when we were at 98. The earliest we've ever had it was in 2002, April 17th, and the latest was July the 13th. So right now we're in the average range, so to speak. For Friday morning, temperatures in the 70s, but we escalate quickly into the mid to upper 80s, and then scattered showers flare up going into Friday. Muggy meter, yeah, we're just going to kick in that mugginess big time for very humid to near miserable for Thursday going to Friday. Now, it'll drop dramatically Saturday going to Sunday, but that should be due to the rain that's going to kick in. Now, we're getting a serious taste of summer, high pressure in full effect. Thursday and Friday, the humidity goes up, and we're looking for the dew point temperatures to escalate as well. Now let's add another layer to that, and that's the UV index. Initially, I thought we would get rid of the 9s as the rain begins to pull through, but because the rain's not going to be all-out rain, cloudy all day, it's going to allow enough sunshine in here so that we have an elevated UV index for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, despite the chances of precipitation. Now, our chances of precipitation escalate Friday, Saturday, and Sunday between 30 up to near 50% for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You can see Saturday scattered showers begin heavier over to our west, but again it begins to pull through. Then we have several waves that begin to slide through our general area. So we'll be watchful of that. Finally, here's a look at your extended forecast. That 91, don't be surprised if we have a heat index approaching the upper 90s to near, here we go, 100.
All right, Paul, thank you. Here's what's coming up tonight on the Delmarva Sports Network. At 8:30, Bennett takes on Parkside in boys lacrosse. Then it's the final score at 10:30.
We salute Bob Schneider, a distinguished veteran of the U.S. Army whose valor and expertise were demonstrated both in the air and on the terrain of Vietnam and Japan from 1967 to 1971. Specializing in Morse code, Mr. Schneider was instrumental in intercepting and deciphering enemy transmissions, thus furnishing critical intelligence on enemy troop movements and communication channels.
Spicer Brothers and CoastTV are honoring military persons and first responders serving Delmarva. If you have a family member, friend, or community member that you would like to nominate for a CoastTV salute, go to coasttvsalutes.com.
Right to ownership of genetic material, that's under the microscope. It's a key issue within a legal battle attorneys general and they're taking against 23andMe. The bankrupt DNA testing company, which has samples from more than 15 million people, is planning to sell genetic data to a third party. A lawsuit claims selling the samples could pose challenges to privacy. Attorneys general are pushing for a judge to decide that 23andMe doesn't have the right to give that information away without proper consent. A 23andMe spokesman argues those arguments are meritless.
General Motors has announced it will invest $4 billion over the next several years to increase its U.S. manufacturing. The investment will be put toward updating 3 of its American assembly plants and moving production of 2 popular Chevy models out of Mexico. GM says this new investment will give the company the ability to assemble more than 2 million cars per year in the U.S.
The latest data on price increases shows consumers can breathe a sigh of relief for now.
Karen Kefa has a look at what pushed the inflation needle lower and higher this month.
Despite the economic churn around President Donald Trump's rapidly changing tariff policies, government inflation data showed just modest price increases during May, with the overall consumer price index up 2.4% year over year, just a slight uptick from April.
It's quite possible that higher tariffs will in fact later on translate to higher inflation, but it simply has not happened yet.
Experts say there's a few reasons prices didn't surge last month. First, some tariffs were curtailed or postponed. Some businesses beefed up their pre-tariff inventories. Others absorbed the first wave of higher import costs. Cardiff Garcia of the Economic Innovation Group and host of the New Bazaar podcast says many businesses have taken a wait-and-see approach.
They've essentially bought themselves some time and some maneuverability until they have a better sense of exactly what the future holds for tariffs and for trade policy.
And economist Natasha Sarin of the Budget Lab at Yale University says the data lags behind price hikes retailers like Walmart and Target have said are already happening.
Economists have started to do the hard work of trying to look at real-time price increases. So they're looking at what online retailers are posting as prices for imported goods, and those are actually rising.
Appliance prices rose by 0.8% from April. Toy prices climbed for a second consecutive month, up 1.3%. Some consumer electronics like TVs also saw price increases. Moderating some of the upticks, gas prices, which fell 2.6%. In Washington, I'm Karen Kefa.
Coming up, new on Coast TV News at 6, questions dodged for a second day in a row. House Speaker Melissa Minor Brown refuses to answer our questions about Stell Parker Selby.
We want to let our viewers know of a program change to be aware of Friday, June 13th. The U.S. Open will air from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. Then Wheel of Fortune begins at 7 p.m. and the NBC Nightly News at 7:30. There will be no Coast TV News at 5 or 6 on Friday.
Cambridge, we're looking at it staying clear and will drop down to 75 by the time we get to the 9 o'clock hour. Our umbrella winner is Jackie Hollenbaugh of Laurel. Congratulations, courtesy of Paul Davis Restoration and Home Remodeling. Keep up with your forecast by calling our weather line, sponsored by the law offices of Brusted Mandales and Federico. And finally, here's a look at your exclusive 10-day forecast. 91 sweltering degrees on Thursday. Then watching out for thunderstorms and scattered showers, particularly in the afternoon for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and now even leaning into Monday.
Well, thank you, and thanks for joining us here for Coast TV News at 5.
For more news and local weather, you can download our Coast TV News app.
Inside Edition is up next.
And we'll see you later tonight for Coast TV News at 6. Have a great evening.